Hi, my name is Sebastian from codingthesmartway.com, and today in this video I'd like to give you a short introduction into the Vue.js 2 front-end framework. And Vue is a very new framework which gains a lot of traction at the moment. And in this introduction I'll guide you through the first steps you need to know to get started with the framework and initiate a first project. So stay tuned. Okay, first it's always a good idea to take a look at the project's website, and the Vue.js website can be found at vuejs.org, and you can see it here. So what exactly is Vue? Vue is a progressive JavaScript framework that focuses on building user interfaces. So it only works in the view layer of your application, and it makes no assumptions of middleware and backend technologies you are using. So in fact, Vue can work together with all of the common backend technologies which are available for web development at the moment, and can be easily integrated into your existing projects, of course. And that makes it very easy to integrate Vue in your existing projects. Another main advantage of Vue.js is that it is very performant. So as you can read it here, it's only 17 kilobyte in size, and that means the core library, and that makes your application blazing fast. So the overhead you are adding by including Vue.js in your project is very small, and that makes sure that your application is performant. Okay, if you want to integrate Vue.js into your project, there are different ways of doing so. So let's click here on the guide to get an overview of the different options, and you can click on installation here on the left side menu. And here you can see there are different options. So for example, you can include it directly by using a script tag in your HTML page. That's basically all what is needed to get going with Vue, and you can integrate it directly by using a script tag and use the resource from a content delivery network. For example, here Unpackage is one of the content delivery networks which makes Vue.js available, and that's the easiest option. Another option is to use the npm package manager to install Vue by simply typing in npm install Vue. That is downloading the library and adding it to the nodes modules folder of your project. And there is another version, and that is the version which we will be using in this video, and that's the Vue.js CLI, the command line interface. And with the command line interface, you are getting another command, that's the Vue command, and by using that command you can initiate a new project which is based on a template and is already including the Vue library, so you do not need to download it in a separate step. Okay, so let's switch to the command line and start installing the Vue command line interface so that we can use it to initiate our first project. And to do so, we need to say npm install, and I do it as a root user, -g, because we want to install the Vue command line interface as a global command. So we need to give that option a G for global. And the package name is Vue-CLI. So execute that command, and the installation is taking a second. Okay, here we are. You can see the installation has been completed successfully, and now the new Vue command is available. You can see it here. It has different options, and in order to generate a new project, we are using the first option here, the init option, and we do it in the following way. Let's say Vue init webpack, because we want to get the project template which is using the webpack module loader and bundler, And then as the last parameter, give the name of the project, and we simply call it view app 01. And now it's initiating the project. You can see it's downloading the template, and then it's asking some questions. First, we need to give a project name here, and we can leave it as the default here, view app 01. A project description, also leave the default here, the author, and now it's asking how the view build should be done. We are choosing runtime and compile. That's the recommended way. The ESLint feature, for the moment I'm saying no. And here regarding the test setup with Karma and Mocker, also no. And end-to-end tests with Nightwatch, again no. So that's all what's needed. Now a new project folder was created, view app 01, and you can see it here. The next step is to change into that folder and then complete the installation by installing all the npm packages needed for our project by using the npm install command. Okay, so let's do so. Switch into that new project directory and then executing npm install in that directory. And now it's fetching and downloading all the packages defined in the package.json file, which was added to the project. That file is containing all the dependencies, and it's downloading now the dependencies and installing the node modules into the node modules folder of the project. And this again takes a second to complete. Okay, here we are, it's completed. And now we can do a first test, and we can start the web server, the development web server, to run the project. And that is again done by using the npm command. And let's say npm run dev here. Okay, you can see the browser is opened automatically, and it's loading the project here at localhost port 8080. And here you can see the app, which was initialized with a view command, is already running and showing this output here in the browser. And if I switch back to the terminal, you can see it's saying, okay, it was compiled successfully, and now the server is listening at localhost 8080, and it's a live reload server. So if we are implementing now any changes, the website is loading automatically without any manual steps required. Okay, so let's keep our project running here, and I've opened another tab here at the command line, and I'm in the same project directory here. And now let's start my code editor, and that's Atom, so that we can take a look at the initial project structure. Okay, here it is. So let's close it and see what's inside of our project folder. And here you can see we have various files included. Here you can see the package.json file. That is a file where all the dependencies are listed. And before, we have made sure that the dependencies have been downloaded and installed into the node modules folder by executing the npm install command in the project folder. And then the next file, which is important, is the index.html file, because in that file you find the starting point of the application. And you can see it's a plain simple HTML file. And in the body section of that HTML file, a div section is included. And that div section has one attribute here, the ID attribute, and the ID attribute gets assigned a string. In our case, that's the app string. And that is the placeholder, so that the view framework knows where to insert the content which is generated by the Vue application. Okay, next let's open the source folder, because that is a place in our project structure where the Vue JS application is implemented. And let's open within that folder the file main.js, and that's the place where the Vue application is initialized. And you can see it here. We are importing two things here. First, we need to import a Vue from Vue, and that is the main application class. And you can see it here. It's used to create a new instance of the framework. And together with the Vue, we are importing a second thing, and that is app from the app file. And that is a component we are implementing here in our project, which is available here in app.vue. We will take a look inside that implementation in a second. But first, let's focus on the part here. And the new Vue framework instance is created by calling the constructor by using the new keyword. And the constructor gets one parameter, and that's the object here with 3 configuration properties. And the first property here, you can see it's called EL for element, and that gets assigned the string here, and that is mainly saying or defining that the output of the Vue application should be inserted into the element which the ID app, and we saw it before in the index.html file. We assigned the string app to the ID property, and now we are connecting our Vue application with that div element. So the output which is generated, the HTML output which is generated by our Vue application, is replacing that div element within our index.html file. So here's the template of our application, and the template here is very simple because it's only containing one element, and that is the app element, which is referring to the app component. And by using that element here in our template, we are defining that the HTML output, which is generated by the app component, should be placed here inside of our Vue template. So it's part of the output which our Vue application generates. And to be able to use the app element here and including the output of the app component, we do not only need to import app here, we also need to declare app here within the object we are assigning to the components property in the Vue configuration object, so that the Vue application knows that we want to make use of app component within our template. Okay, so let's switch over to the implementation of the app component. And the implementation is available in app.vue. So here you can see that's the complete implementation, and as in every Vue.js single file component implementation, this file is split up into 3 sections. On top you can see here is the template section of the app component. Then we have a script section over here, and finally we have here the style section containing CSS styling code for the component template. And you can see that makes it very easy to keep the overview, because everything belonging to one component is here within that one file. And so let's first take a look at the script section. You can see here the script section is making a default export of an component configuration object for Vue. And that configuration object is containing 2 properties: name, assigning a name to the component, in our case that's app, and again a components property taking an object containing all of the subsequent components which are used here in app component. And we have one component included here, and that's the hello component. It's listed here because if we take a look at the template, you can see the hello component is included in the template by using the hello element here. And now you can see the template is not so long. We have only one div section here, and the div section consists of two elements, one image element. This image element is including the logo.png file in the output, and it's including the output which is generated by the subcomponent hello. And if we now compare that template to the output which was available here in the browser, you can see it's available here. That's the logo file. And all the other output which is generated here, the welcome message, the essential links, the ecosystem links, and so on, is coming from the content or the output which is produced by the hello component, and is included here in the template. So let's take a look at the last part of the initial project structure, and that's the implementation of the hello component. The implementation is available here in the subfolder components and file hello.view. And I've already opened that file, and here you can see again we have the template section available, then we have the script section, and finally the style section. And as you can see, if we start by taking a look at the script section, again a default export is made, defining a component configuration object. The name in this case is hello because we are defining the hello component. And then there is something new. It's a data function returning an object with one property included, and that's the MSG, stands for message property. And MSG gets assigned the welcome string, and you can see it's welcome to your Vue.js app. That's exactly the string which is outputted here as the headline under the logo file. And now if you take a look at the template code which is defined here, you can see the property MSG is used here in the template in the H1 element by using the interpolation syntax, which requires to use open and closing double curly braces. And by using that syntax, we are able to include properties from the object which is returned from the data function of the component in our template. And that's the reason why the text from the MSG property is printed out here. And the rest of the template, you can see it's about printing out those links here. We have the essential links section included in an H2 element, and then as a list, all the links are printed out. And we have the ecosystem here. It's that part with 4 links pointing to Vue router, Vuex, Vue loader, and awesome Vue. So in the next step, I'd like to make some changes to the initial implementation, just to give you an impression of how easy it is to use the Vue framework, and to give you a little introduction to some of the standard Vue.js directives. And I start with the changes by deleting some of the content here in the template of the hello component, and I'm going to remove everything which is related to the 2 link sections here. So let's delete this so that we only are printing out the welcome message, and you can see I'm saving the file and instantly it gets reloaded in the browser without needing me to do anything manually here. And now we can go on with implementing, for example, a list printout, and I'm defining another data property here in the object which is returned by the data method, and I'm naming that array I would like to have users, and then define it as an array. And within that array, let's say we have objects included in that array, which consists of two properties. Let's use a first name property and assign a first name string and a last name. Okay, that's it. So let's maybe add 2 more elements here. Okay, assign a different first name and last name for the second user object, and for the third user object, let's use John as a first name and maybe Porter as a last name. So now we have 3 users defined here in the users array, and now we are able to use or to make use of that users array with the content included in our template. And I'd like to print out those users as a list. So under the h1 element, let's include another div section here. And this should be an unordered list, and I saying list item. And now I'm using a Vue.js standard directive, which is called v-for, and I'm saying it equals the string user in users. And by applying that syntax here, the Vue.js framework is iterating over that array and including one list item element per object defined in our array in the generated output. And now we can use the interpolation syntax once again to print out the values. First print out the user first name, and then print out the user last name. Okay, let's save it. And you can see the output is generated, and I am getting back the names of the users. Okay, so next thing I'd like to include is an input element, and use two-way data binding to sync the value of the input element with a property which is defined in our data model. Okay, let's first define a new property here in the return object of the data function, and let's name that property input val, and just assign an empty string here. Okay, and within our template here, under the div section of the list of users, I'm defining another div section, and within that div section I'm including an input element, and let's use the type text. And we don't need name and value here. Instead, I'm using another Vue.js standard directive, which is called vmodel, v-model. And I'm assigning the string input val, which corresponds to the name of our property we have defined here. And let's output that property here under the input element, and let's say span, and I'm using the v-text directive, and again I'm assigning input val. Okay, so let's see. Here is our input element, And now I can start typing something into that element. And you can see here that's the output of our span element, which is bound to the input val element by using the v-text directive. The output of the input here is directly reflected here as an output on the same page. Okay, the last thing I'd like to demonstrate is how you can use events with Vue.js. And I'm going to include another div section here. So the use case I'd like to implement is a very easy one. Just let us implement a button which is going to increment a counter by 1 each time the user clicks on the button. So let's first define a counter data property here in our data object. I'm going to call it counter and set it initially to 0. And within that new div section, I'm implementing a button. And this button should include an Vue.js event handler, and I'm using the directive v-on, followed by the event I would like to respond to, and that is a click event. And each time the user clicks on the button, the counter property should be incremented. So I'm using ++ here. And the content of the button should reflect the value of the counter. So I'm including a little bit of text information here. You have clicked this button, and now I'm going to use interpolation syntax again to include the value of the counter times. Okay, let's save it and see how the output looks like. So now here is the button, and I can click on the button, and each time I click, you can see the counter value which is printed out on the button here is incremented by 1. This was Sebastian from codingthesmartway.com. If you do like my videos, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you in the next video. Bye.